Okay, hello everybody. We are recording and our recording is in progress. Oh, here we go. I thought I was gonna have to do some extra work with it, but it doesn't seem like I'm gonna have to. No, I won't. Yay, it's working fine now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so today is, excuse me, Wednesday, November the 8th, and we are continuing in our study of A Course in Miracles. We are in chapter 3, The Innocent Perception, section 4, Error and the Ego. And we will be beginning today, paragraph number 3. And this one is pretty meaty, so I think we're going to have some really interesting concepts that we're going to, discuss at this moment.
Yeah.
Today. Okay, so let's just settle back for a second. Take in a couple of deep cleansing breaths. Breathe in. Let your belly expand and breathe out. Allow your belly to enter into your rib cage. And with each breath, just allow yourselves to be more and more centered, more and more at peace, more and more one with Source and with our collective. And at this time, we know that there is only one source, one essence, one place of love. And in this place of love, we all reside. We are all a part of. We allow ourselves to be love. We allow ourselves to only see love. We allow ourselves to express only love. And as we are in this place of love, this place of wholeness, this place of victory, this place of mercy, this place of grace, we look forward to the day's activity when we will have an understanding more and more of ego, more and more of what error is and what it isn't. And we allow ourselves to release all ego that is unnecessary, all error that does not serve us. And we are so grateful for this opportunity to hold within ourselves peace, love, and creation. And with that, we say, and so it is.
And so it is.
Hold on a second. Hey, Wise Young, go upstairs, man. Don't watch TV down here. Go upstairs, okay? Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Harriet. Do you want to go ahead and begin?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
How is everybody today? Great, I hope. As has already been stated, we are in chapter 3, The Innocent Perception. We're in section 4, Error and the Ego. And we will be discussing paragraph 3 today. The ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. It is capable of asking questions, but not of perceiving meaningful answers, because these would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. The mind is therefore confused, because only one-mindedness can be without confusion. A separated or divided mind must be confused because it is out of accord with itself. This makes,
I mean, you skipped 5.
oh, it is not, it is necessarily uncertain, but thank you. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is. It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. This makes its aspects strangers to each other, and this is the essence of the fear-prone condition in which attack is always possible. You have every reason to feel afraid as you perceive yourself. That is why you cannot escape from fear until you realize that you did not and could not create yourself. You can never make your misperceptions true, and your creation is beyond your own error. That is why you must eventually choose to heal the separation. The ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self. Post, that means it comes after, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because pre is before. So post, that aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. So before we became separated, there was no ego. That's what I'm getting from what is being said there. Is that how you see that? Before,
Ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self.
right.
And I
So,
think that's what it was saying last time when we last week.
mhm,
That when we are whole in our concept, the ego is whole, is a part of who we are. We're not in any way, in any sense, separated.
right,
Yeah.
right. But the way I'm seeing this, the way I'm understanding it, and you can correct me if I'm in error here, but what I'm seeing here is before the separation, the ego wasn't even in play. It was absent.
Yeah.
Is what I'm under the way I'm seeing it.
Yeah, because I mean, we didn't need personalization.
Exactly. Yeah.
We were whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we were talking about, like the fetus in the body.
Right. Or as Youngkin said, what was his phrase? The child or the baby or something. I don't know. In other words, he refused to use the word fetus in trying to and I'll get off of that right away. But he was trying to not use the word fetus.
Who was he that you're talking about?
Glenn Youngkin, the current governor of the state of Virginia.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't know. I really don't know anything that he said.
Oh. No, I've just heard how he phrases things, and he refers to the unborn child as opposed to the fetus. And in his soapbox thing of trying to eliminate abortion, right. Or trying to take control of the body of women. Yeah. The physical body.
Because some people, and that's that part of ego self, makes us have delineations where we have to delineate what this term is, and we can't use that term because we're afraid that somebody's going to take it somewhere else.
Right.
And this
In
is what
other
this
words,
is saying,
in other
you know,
words, we have to be politically correct at all times. See?
yeah. And this is what this whole paragraph is saying, is nothing but fear, because
Mhm.
the ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self,
Right,
which was made rather than created. And I think
right,
that that's kind of interesting, that concept, which was made rather than
rather
created.
than created, yes, yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
In seeing that something is made, because when when you're using just connotation words like that, made and created, you kind of think of them as the same. But when you
Oh,
go,
when
go ahead.
I was gonna say, when I see the word created, it's, and I forget, I was reading something the other day and I came across the word magic. And the way magic was defined is making something out of nothing or making something into something else.
Magic.
And magic, yeah,
Okay.
the word M-A-G-I-C. And I think whatever it was that I was reading, they spelled it M-A-G-I-C-K. In other words, instead of M-A-G-I-C.
The British, the British.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
yeah,
Um,
but what I was trying to say is, when I think of something being created, it's making something out of nothing, or taking something and making it into something else. In other words, and that's what made me think about the definition of magic that when I looked it up the other day. Yeah.
Yeah. Because well, and I just think that that's an interesting concept, because this is saying the ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation
Post-separation
self,
self.
which was made rather than created.
Mhm.
So it's like the ego is the questioning part, because
Mhm.
that's the thing that makes you question, and that's the thing that where you are making something.
Right. Right.
You are
Yeah.
making it a thing, as opposed to creating something, because
Uh-huh.
you're making, just like we were talking about the difference between fetus and child. For me,
Mhm. Mhm.
is whether the is all inside.
Right.
It hadn't come out yet. It's all inside.
Yep.
But for some people, they need to have they need to have a better understanding of, the language needs to be, I guess, more precise, so
Yeah.
that, so that they can make it into something else.
Right. And okay. What in my opinion, okay, I don't see any problem in calling a spade a spade.
Mm-hmm.
But some people will find that insulting, when you call a spade a spade. And I'm just using the metaphor there,
Mm-hmm.
because what like do you remember George Carlin,
Mm-hmm.
the comedian? Well,
Mm-hmm.
he had me rolling. I don't remember now where I saw it. It might have been on TikTok, it might have been on something else, but it was this thing where he was going through how what we today call PTSD, back in after World War II, World War I, they called it shell shock. And then when we got to World War II, it was called something else. shell shock, 2 syllables. And then when we got to World War II, they called it something else, and that was like 3 or 4 syllables. And then after the Korean conflict, it was called something else, and it was, that many more syllables. And to me, shell shock, PTSD, whatever you want to call it, it is what it is. And if whatever phrase you want to use to describe whatever it is, that's okay with me. I don't feel insulted. I don't feel embarrassed. That's how you see it. And if you see it that way, and I see it a different way, I explain to you what I'm seeing, and then we can agree that we're talking about the same thing, even though we're using different language. And there shouldn't be any, what am I trying to say? There shouldn't be anything that we're in disagreement with, I guess is the best way to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand.
And I think that.
Is that somebody coming in? Oh, yeah, Richard.
Yeah,
I got it.
Let's see.
He's in. What were you gonna say?
I got him in. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether I got him in or not. But but that's why language is so important.
It is
because so, like you say, it might not bother you, it might not affect you, but some people still need further
explanation
definition in order to define what is meant by that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all kinds of reasons why.
Exactly.
Like you were talking about Youngkin earlier. He doesn't want to use the term fetus for fear that it can be misused from his platform.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, unborn child and a fetus is the same thing. I mean,
exactly.
That's because there is no fear in me.
Right.
But I can, but I'm not a legal person. Mm-hmm. So I guess that, there are some legal terms where you have to be more precise.
Yeah.
So
I understand that.
I
said, I understand that,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Everybody doesn't.
Right.
And I think that that's kind of where this whole idea of something being made than something being created.
Mm.
Are you making a judgment, or are you making something for a new platform, or are you making this thing for whatever reason and create? And there's a thing with created. Is there a thing that I don't want to get too much, because this is so long and it's so meaty. I don't want to get too much into this first sentence. So let's move on to the second sentence. Hey, Richard, or Forrest, Richard, we're just starting off on first sentence. Forrest, are you here? Okay, so I don't know whether Forrest is here or not.
But I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And Richard, did you want to comment on this first sentence?
No, go ahead, keep going, and I can tie it into my next one.
Okay.
To when we did two.
Okay. So sentence number 2 is, it is capable of asking questions, but not of perceiving meaningful answers, because this would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. And I'm thinking that it is the ego.
Mm-hmm.
See, the ego is capable of asking questions, but not of perceiving meaningful answers, because these would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. And And I think that that's kind of where, are we putting the chicken before the egg and the egg before the chicken? From time to time.
Right.
But I think that, when we are looking at ego as an aspect of self, it really is that it comes after we are experiencing our separated self,
Mhm.
as opposed to our our whole, our whole self. And one of the terms that Richard uses often is the healthy ego and the unhealthy ego. So, I would think that this unhealthy ego is that part of that, that when it questions, um, it can't perceive a meaningful answer because
It has no knowledge.
right, yeah, because then, knowledge can't be perceived.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when we are thinking about ego as a part of who we are, yes, and are coming back together into one mind, because we do have separated minds, you
Yep.
know. Um, we see ourselves as separate people. We think ourselves as a family. We see ourselves as a in a community or as a nation or something else, And when we're seeing ourselves as one whole collective,
Right.
of who and what it is, then we can then we don't have to be so afraid of our individualized selves.
Right. Because when you talk about collective, when we talk about family, community, the universe, we are all a part of that. So collectively, we are one. But at the same time, we, over time, and well, from birth, really, we are seen as individuals. And the more I think about it, the more I'm liking the answer that Richard gave us, as far as when we were asked, who am I? Because I mean, there are 1,000 things that you can think of that would describe you to your child, your mom, to your spouse, your either their wife or their daughter or their husband, to your mother and father, you're their child. Somebody else, well, in relation to your job, you have a job title. And I mean, all of these things kind of make us separate. But when we think of ourselves as a collective, as one, we are all of those things, but we're still one
Hmm.
with the
And that's the purpose
universe.
of the whole collective consciousness.
Right.
When we are seeing ourselves as one,
Mm-hmm.
it's our consciousness, it's what we are conscious of that communicates our oneness.
Right.
Any thoughts, Richard?
I'll come back to the verse, but what I was going to say was, um, what I've been really, I was struggling with it for a while between the I and the collective for a long time. And I think just recently I've accepted the fact that we don't have language in our, and I think I said this before in terms of another concept too, but I think this is another one of those where we don't have a concept of fully understanding that we are two things at the same time in this sort of negotiation that has to happen between I as the individual and I as part of the collective. And I don't think they're mutually exclusive from one another, but it seems like both of those have some important points. And what's going to be interesting is when I look at, these two verses, when we're thinking about, this idea of post separation, and which I would say is leaning more to the I than this other concept of the I and the we.
Mm.
But the second sentence, I think, is I find it interesting in how it's talking about, when I read it, it makes me think about the conversations that I have within myself. And I'm really drawn to the idea of just being capable of asking questions, not for perceiving meaningful answers, but that would involve knowledge that, just awareness that I haven't gotten from any book knowledge or anything. Like, I know you all have had those moments when it's like you have a sense of knowing, but
Mhm.
there is no book or anything necessarily that you got it out of. And those moments are so freaky. I just have
They
to
are.
say that. Those moments are so freaky. But lately I think, Divine has been sending me a lot of good energy, and I just been getting some messages here to just surrender to it. So I am receiving the message today as this is just tying into what my whole journey is, what today has been like. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop there. I hope that made sense. I
It
Yeah,
felt
did.
like I
it
was rambling.
does. It does.
It
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Um, number 3. Did you want to move on any?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Number 3, the mind is therefore confused because only one-mindedness can be without confusion.
Mhm.
And you know, and the mind is, to me, that is like the ego mind,
Mm-hmm.
the ego self, and not maybe because the mind is in lowercase. So I would think that that would be like the ego.
Yeah.
Is therefore confused only because only one-mindedness can be without confusion. And I haven't I would love to say I got one-mindedness, but that would just straight be a
Aren't we
straight
working
lie.
on it? Aren't we working on it? Oh.
Yeah. And I think that that's kind of that's important enough to say, because that's part of that ego self. If you because so many people, as much as I love my mother, she could never be wrong. She could never be wrong. I don't think there was a day I ever heard my mother apologize. And if she did, it was snarky. you know but so I don't think it ever happened. you know um but when you are so invested in your ego self, your personality, the I, it makes you so that you can't. It makes it, I'm not going to say it makes it so that you can't, but I think it makes it very difficult for you to be able to see someone else eye to eye. And that's always and one of the things that I had whenever I thought of eye to eye, I always thought of EYE to
Mhm.
EYE, as opposed to capital letter I to capital letter I. And I think that when we look at each other eye to eye, it's easier
Now,
to
which eye are you
understand.
talking about? I
Yeah,
said, which eye are you talking about? The physical eye or the ego eye?
that that's it. Which eye are you talking about? When you say eye to eye, are you talking about the physical eye that you can see, and which
Mhm.
sees that other person, and can you even see that other person as an eye, to see that person as an individual, that other person has a concept that is valid, is as valid as yours? Or do you have to disregard what that other person is saying because only your only you can be validated. And that, that's why I said, that's what I was talking about my mother. As much as I loved her, she could never be wrong. She could never be wrong about anything. Even when she was wrong, she could still not be wrong. And we had to, if we wanted to be safe in our home, meaning we weren't going to go through,
you had to agree with mom
or her whatever it was, that we had to also agree that she was going to be right on this. And we wouldn't be in her silent storm or her very vocal storm, because you never knew what storm was coming, but it would be a storm. So I think that when we get to this point of where we're no longer confused about that eye to eye, we're not confused about that self, that we are opening ourselves up to wholeness as opposed to individuality. That's how I'm seeing that.
Yeah, and you
go on too long.
No, because as you were talking, when you said that about your mother, it brought to mind a conversation that I had, and I think it was with my brother and another person. I don't know whether it was another relative or somebody close to the family. And we were talking about my mother, and somebody made the comment that you can look at the sky and say it's blue, but if mom decided it was red, it was red, and you better not try. And I mean, it's obviously a beautiful blue sky, but she's going to insist that it's red, and you better not contradict her. I don't even remember now why because it was a long time ago. I don't even know why that particular thing came up, but I do remember that, somebody in the group making that statement. And you just brought back an old memory, that's all. But yeah, it's wait a minute, where are we? We're
Still on 3.
On 3, okay. Yeah, the mind is therefore confused because only one-mindedness can be without confusion. And when you stop and think about that, one-mindedness, that means that everybody in the room, everybody in the space is thinking alike. And usually in that kind of environment or situation, there's harmony. There's no disruptive conversations going on, one trying to outshout the other one because my way is right and your way ain't, kind of thing. And basically that's what it's telling me. There is no confusion when everybody is of like mind. But then again, when you stop and think about it, how boring this world would be. Just throwing that out there.
Well, and I think that when we think of one-mindedness, to me it still leaves a lot of room for interpretation, because like here we are, a group of people, we are all like-minded, but we are willing to hear someone else's explanation or expression.
No
point of view. And so we're not boxed in.
Right.
to that one thought. You know, you're allowed to have a thought that is varied or more complex, or and we might even call it different.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, yet we allow each other to have that thought, so that we are still of one mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you know, so I think that it doesn't make it boring. For me, it doesn't make it boring. You know,
Right.
to me, that's what
Right.
heaven is that, you know, everybody has that right mind. Everybody has that one mind, has that one way of thinking, but you're not thinking in a way of where it's fearful. You know,
Right.
you
Right.
gotta think like this. And I think that
Yeah.
that's what the world has, what the world, when I say the world, meaning uh, a system that is in place to make you, so if you don't think like this, then something is wrong
Woe
with
be
you.
unto you.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
that's not necessarily one-mindedness. That's that's one of the things that causes confusion, because you're not open enough to be able to express where you're coming from in
And
this picture.
and if you stop and think about it, that's why we are here on this planet. I mean, on in this space called Inner Haven, because what we were being dictated to and being programmed with, it just didn't. Uh, it wasn't warm and fuzzy. It ruffled our feathers. I
Has
guess.
sharp edges.
What?
Has it had sharp edges?
Yes.
Forrest, did I hear you speak up? Did you want to say something for us?
I'm just listening. I'm gonna jump in just a second.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Richard, any questions or comments on 3?
No, I agree with your response to Harriet, and I've often thought the same thing, that one mindedness didn't necessarily mean everybody thought the same, but um that we understood that, knowledge and those things are oftentimes individual journeys,
Mm.
right? And so we're making space, not even making space, but we're going back to our default, where we don't have to make space. Space is already there. That's just the
Right.
default,
Mhm.
for different, beliefs and ideas and thoughts. Um, and so I agree with that. And I think it also just kind of accentuates what's said in the previous verse in regards to, um, how you're not able to perceive meaningful answers to questions because you're not in a state where you can get the knowledge. You can't perceive that. And you can't perceive it because the mind is confused, because you're outside of the one mindedness. But that does say something very interesting. And when we consider the idea that we all can be one-minded and not necessarily have to have the same belief.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
there's something beautiful about, just like, if there was one message that the world could hear, I would love for them to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I think that this is what the whole world is trying to get to. That everybody has one mind, but yet we have varied ways of enjoying that aspects of that one mind.
Mhm.
When I was a young girl, I just remember, because going and sitting in my catechism class, and the big thing that the nuns would teach us is that you can go anywhere around the world, and in the Catholic Church, everybody would be saying the same thing at the same time. And that was their whole idea of oneness. That you can go to Rome, you can go to some little dive hole in the wall down in Alabama, and everybody would be saying the same thing at the same time. So that was that concept of oneness. But it wasn't allowing you complete freedom. because you couldn't say anything outside of those outside of those words.
If you did, you got to tap on the knuckles, right? Oh,
Anybody want to read sentence 4?
Sure. A separated or divided mind must be confused,
Mhm.
which ties in with the first with the verse before that, where it says, "And the mind is therefore confused because
Mhm.
one-mindedness, can only just with confusion. It's just a continuation of that."
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. And it must be, yeah, it must be confused. Um, Move on to 5.
Yeah. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is.
It is it is necessarily uncertain about what it is. Oh yeah,
Right. So the mind doesn't realize that it is separate. So,
yeah.
or gets confused with the ego. And I think that's what this is more so referring to be
Yeah,
clear.
Mhm. Yeah,
The
yeah,
separated or divided mind is the ego.
you're right.
right, right.
Mhm.
And so the ego
And I,
isn't necessarily, so the ego is necessarily uncertain about what it is.
so if you're confused about who you are, and that goes back to the statement that I was trying to make a little bit earlier. When somebody asks you, "Who are you?" I am love.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that to me, it really puts it all together, because that's who I am. That's who I aspire to be. That's who, um, you know, and
Mhm.
that's who I want to be seen as, a love
Mhm.
child.
Mhm. And that's so important too, because and that's where words come in, and that's where
Mhm.
the ability to explain what love means. Because to some people, I remember I had a conversation with a gentleman, a couple of years ago, and because my thing is that I tell everybody, I have for many years, that I love you, and
Right.
this was so offensive to him. He was so offended by that. And he said, "Well, why are you saying that to me?" And I said, "Because it's true." I do, you know.
Mhm.
But it was so offensive to him. But I don't know what his
Did he ever
experience
explain?
with love was. I don't know what love actually meant to him, what that connotation was. Was love painful? Because how was love demonstrated to him? No, I didn't know any. I still don't to this day
Oh, okay.
know
Because
any
that was
of
my
those
question.
things that made him to be so offended by that. And even when I was, and even as I was trying to find out why was that so offensive to him, he just got angrier and angrier and angrier. So I said, I'm gonna leave that alone. you know, I can love you at a distance.
Right.
I still love you. You can't stop me from loving you.
Oh,
but if you don't understand what love actually means to another person, love could have been shown and demonstrated as cruelty to some other people, to
It could have been
somebody
about
else. It could have,
experience.
yeah. So so that's why I think that language is so important, and time is important too, because if me and this gentleman had some more time together, then maybe we could have had to be able to figure out that I'm not talking, the love that I have to offer you ain't like your granddaddy's love. Ain't like your mama's love or your preacher's love or whoever love that you think that this is, or even your love.
It could
My
have been a
love
bad
is different.
experience.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I think that some people, it can be challenging for some people if they don't, if they're not willing to hear why you think the way that you think and what you mean by what you say.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah, and so a separated or divided mind must be confused. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is, because if I'm confused by whatever it is that's in my mind that can bring out such fear and attack based on a casual conversation or a casual concept from somebody else, how 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 can how can we as a collective, as one mind, as a collective, one mindedness, how do we get to this point where we are willing to put in the time and put in the work that it takes to understand somebody else?
Mm.
And I agree with you, especially when you're talking about love, because to me, I'm like you, Bennett. I, you know, I don't say it to strangers, but anybody that I know, whether it's just casually or I know you pretty well. When we depart, I'm gonna say I love you or love you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because to me, and sometimes you never know when you say that to somebody, it might have meant the difference between life and death for that person. Because if they have not expressed it or shown you, and sometimes you don't necessarily have to say, but just show it by giving them a hug,
Right.
you know, and to express it in whatever way, whether it's verbally or in a physical way, with a hug. Or I remember as a little child, very often when we said goodbye to somebody, they would say, blow them a kiss. So you kiss your hand and blow on it in the direction of the person that you are sending it to. And to me, that's an expression of love.
Mm.
So in whatever way you is convenient at the particular time, let let another person know. And if you see somebody in a depressed state, and if you're sensitive, you can pick up on that. They might say I'm okay, but just the tone of how they say I'm okay tells you everything is not okay. And let them know that you love them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so y'all want to move on? Or any
Yeah,
questions or comments, or what, everybody's cool with number 5?
I'm cool with it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Go with
Okay.
it.
6 is it has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. And this is the mind.
Mhm.
It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. And yeah, to me, a confused mind,
Mhm.
it does that. And I think that that's, for me, that's what most of our problems in this world is that we are confused within our own minds. And if I'm confused within my mind, and then you're saying something that is completely different than what I'm thinking or saying, then I'm going to think something else about you. And it could be a judgment, it could be anything else. But if I'm not willing to come to this place where we are in agreement, then and that takes time. It really takes time, and you have to be patient and with other people. And I think that that's really what this world needs is time and patience. And that's why we are in this place of this this 3D world where there is time.
Really. And, you know, and yeah, that word again. We need to take the time when somebody says something, take the time to try and understand why they think or feel the way they have just expressed. Because what you just said, my concept could be thousands and thousands of miles away from where you are with what you just said. In other words, my concept of what you just said is totally somewhere else. And I'm nowhere near the place where you are with what you have just said. So when somebody says something, don't judge. Take the time, listen to what they've said, and then if you're not clear, if you or if what they said it confuses you, gain an understanding. Because sometimes when that understanding is made clear, you can be a lot more empathetic with the individual and how they feel about whatever it is you're discussing or whatever, you know, the subject matter might be.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts, Richard?
Hold on. Did I got the right verse? We already
On
did 6.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so we're on 7 now.
No, we're still on 6.
Oh, we're
We're
still
on
on 6. Oh, okay. I didn't have anything else to add. I was saying what y'all saying. All that was making sense. So, but I was thinking 7. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Forrest,
now
what do you got ideas or comments?
I have a comment about love. I think love is also an action without actually even seeing love. It's your action that you're giving to people. That's love. So I think for me, if I'm giving love, it's showing up to be the vessel of God for someone at that particular time. So for me, I can just talk to a stranger today. I'll use a perfect example today. So I was at my doctor's office today. So I was downstairs, I was waiting. So I was sitting down. I asked this lady, I said, do you mind if I sit beside her? I said, sure. I said, I like that ring. She said, nice. I said, can I pray for you? And she said, yeah. She said, that's exactly what I needed. So again, that's the action, not saying it, but showing love.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you were sensitive enough to understand that she was probably going through some kind of turmoil or whatever you want to call it. And
Right.
you just felt you needed to send her the love that she needed at that moment.
Right. And for me, it was not for me to go to the doctors, it was to meet her.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I was going there for me, but I was really going there for her.
For both, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Richard, you've been on 7 for a while now, so
What you got, Richard?
All right. This makes its aspects strangers to each other. And this is the essence of the fear-prone condition in which attack is always possible. And yes, this is the life that I live, or at least the life that I'm moving out of. This is just an extension of that separation, to where when you have this separation, then the parts of yourself become strangers to each other. And then you can't really trust yourself, and then you're living in this fearful sort of state. An attack is always possible. You can be happy one minute and then be attacked right in the next minute and not know what's happening, and not realize that it's not what's happening outside of you, it's what's happening inside of you.
I agree with that. And I like this way that starts off, is that this makes its aspects strangers to each other. So it's not, it's not necessarily talking so much about, other people as strangers, is our aspects with, our aspects within ourselves that are strangers to each other.
Mhm.
Just, sometimes we do have these conversations or these things that we are coming, within ourselves, or we're just coming out of one mindset into something else. But there's still some remnants of the old that's connected to the new. And is aspects of that, I haven't jived this out, and I haven't worked this out in my mind yet. I don't know how to convey this message, not even to me, and now I got to talk to you about it. Oh my gosh. Is this gonna, how weird is this gonna be? And if I already have some sense of fear within myself, is it going to attach itself to who you are, and what level of where you are on your journey? And and can we have a connection there? Because we don't have connection with everybody all the time. We don't always have that time to bring something to a fuller understanding.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on 7, Harriet?
I was just looking at that. Um, it it what I'm thinking is, when we move to a higher plane, we're trying to become better individuals. And then something happens. And rather than using that higher consciousness that tells us what to do, or the correct thing to do is what I'm trying to say, sometimes we find it easier to slip into that comfort zone. And I think that's what they're talking about here. This makes it, as its aspects, strangers to each other. This is the essence of the fear-prone condition. And that's what causes us the fear of that new me, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, that new me, fearful of showing who I am and being who I am, rather than, or we will tend to sometimes slip back into that comfort zone of the old me, which wasn't doing us any good. And that's why we have moved up to a higher plane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think about, a couple of years ago, say 20 years ago, when all of this was still kind of sort of new to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working it out in my mind. And yeah, I was connecting with other people who were of like mind. And I don't know, we were all on our own, individual paths. But if I wasn't with them, I did not know how to express what I was, what I'm thinking, how, why I'm thinking this way.
Right.
And still today, still now, it can be really difficult. If I get in a room of, these, real
Dyed-in-the-wool Baptist.
yeah, these, Christians, and I try to express to them that, yes, I am perfect. Oh my gosh, only Jesus was perfect. Okay, well, first of all, his name was Yeshua, and but if I can, but when so now I'm sounding arrogant or something else, and we're already off on different, not on the same path. We're on different feet. We're not. So now there is contention.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty room for attack, because now it seems as if, and the first question that someone will say to me, and or something will say, the first comment is that, well, I know that, well, are you a Christian? Or, you might be from a Christian background. And I can't, and when I tell them, yes, I am a Christian, not only am I from a Christian background, I am still a Christian. It is so like mind-boggling to them. Now I am not religious. I am not, I'm not disciplined in any, in any religious
Religion.
theology or dogma, but I follow the concepts of Christianity. And
As taught
is,
as taught by Jesus Christ.
yeah.
Because
and,
that's where we get
that
the
in
word Christian.
that in itself does not lend to a lot of communication, because if I'm not in the prayer in the name of Jesus, or if I'm not saying, if I'm not saying the right things, but if we are allowing ourselves to be open to, now, in order for me to be myself around them, I have to be myself around them. I can't be one of them, because I'm not one of them anymore. I have to allow myself to be who I am. And if I have to defend myself, and if it sounds as if there is contention, so that I can get my point across, because my point is as valid as theirs. I think that to me is something I'm learning how to do. But it's only because I'm learning this new language. I understand these concepts. I not only do I understand them logically, I live them appropriately, and I apply these concepts to my life. So I know that this is the thing that works for me, and I can allow you to be who you are, but yes, I get to be in the room. I get to sit at the table, and I get to say, and my point is just as valid as your point and who you are.
I saw something today on Facebook, and I'm gonna try and remember it, but in essence, what it says was that you don't walk away from something because you're afraid. You walk away to keep the peace. That's not exactly what it said, but it in other words, you're in a situation where you're like you were just describing, Benny, and people want to get into an argument with you, for lack of a better word. But rather than stand there and argue, because it's not worth the time and energy, and you're not going to show this person that where you're coming from is just as right for me as where you're coming from is right for you, you just walk away from it. I forget, I can't find it right now, but I thought it was so on point.
And sometimes I do walk away.
Yeah,
and sometimes I do. But now I stay on my ground more. Whereas once upon a time, I would always walk away, or I would always join in. Right. But now my point is valid, and I don't have to walk away just because you might be uncomfortable, or you might not understand. I don't feel that I am defending myself. It might look as if I am, but I am being honest.
You're being authentically you.
Yeah. And I think that that's just as important as them having their way of looking at it,
Exactly. Yeah. And everybody is entitled.
Yeah.
The only thing I was gonna say was, I got a homie that always um pushes on me to change my language. And so what I was gonna say to you, Penelope, was it's not the fact that you think, your beliefs are valid. It's the fact that you know that they're valid. And that
Mm,
is what is that grounding for you to stand there and be accepting of what they say and share your information. And all you can
mhm,
do is hope that they'll accept it the way you accepted theirs. And that best we can do is, be a beacon for showing people how to, exist in
Mhm.
the world. And I say that specifically because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And y'all said this earlier, like it's difficult to have these sort of concepts that we can talk about amongst ourselves, but then you go into a church or just anybody who doesn't engage in those like sort of conversations, and it's like I don't know how to explain to you what it is that's going on in my mind, right? It's
mhm,
hard to
Yeah.
explain it to folks. And what I've started to realize, and Harriet, I've seen that same sort of thing about, if you can't explain to people, just walk away.
Mhm.
And I agree. And yet, time and time again, I see people, I won't say misuse that, but I'll say that they use that sort of walking away mentality to not deal with the fear.
Mhm.
And so I am a big advocate for, as Penelope, you saying, you know, stand I don't want to call it standing ground, because it's like you
mhm.
just
Yeah,
expressing yourself, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
you,
Uh-huh.
you express yourself, and your intuition will tell you whether it's time to go or not. But throughout
Mhm.
all of that, I'm just continuing to push on, at least myself. And if I say it to y'all, then that will be me kind of saying it to me and holding myself accountable. But just being
Mhm.
mindful of how much fear is the undercurrent for some actions that we do that we think, especially social media will tell us, yeah, do this. It's
Mm,
like, oh yeah,
yeah.
you just want us to be scared.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Be a lot of
Mhm.
fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Forrest,
I'm,
any
I'm just
comments?
loving. I'm just loving everything I'm hearing.
Okay. Number 8. You have every reason to feel afraid as you perceive yourself. Whew. Ah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna read 8 and 9 together.
Okay.
Um, 8 is you have every reason to feel afraid as you perceive yourself. This is why you cannot escape from fear until you realize that you did not and could not create yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that this is really, because as long as I am only perceiving myself, I can only perceive myself where I am at this moment.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, and outside of this moment, I don't know what the next moment is. So fear can enter into that. And you said this is why you cannot escape from fear until you realize that you did not and could not create yourself. And
Mhm.
and once upon a time, you don't hear it so much, or I don't anyway. There's probably people are probably still saying it, that this person is a self-made man,
Mhm.
meaning that they have come up on, I guess, pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and, made themselves a millionaire or something like that. But now, when you were looking at creation, that I did not create myself. I came here fully formed as creation, and I have to learn to understand that and accept that, and how what that means to me each and every moment. And that's where I can rest in. That's where I have my strength. That's my I am, because I am of creation.
Mhm.
And that's where I know that's my truth, and that's where I can stand. And it's taken me a long time to get to this point where I trust that. I haven't always trusted myself, and I think it was because I haven't always had the language. I wasn't always articulate in my understanding of who I am. And I haven't always been um, authentic enough to now my favorite word right now is oh gosh, the word that slipped right out my mind is to have is to have this type of integrity, this wholeness. And now that I'm understanding the integrity of myself and who I am, now I can be more. Now I can be more of my creative, my creation, my created self, as opposed to who I made myself into, or what I had accepted as who I am. So that's those are two very powerful sentences for me. Anybody else? Eight
I
and
I just want to quickly co-sign what you just said because that was super important. And I know you're recording, so I want people to really consider elements of what you just said in terms of how much of a shift and a change happens when you have the combination of new language and words and ways to articulate, these concepts, and that sort
Mhm.
of self-assuredness, that sort of stepping into your divine being and saying it. Like those two things are just so important because you can be confident as I don't know what and not be able to express it.
Yeah.
And you can be able to express it and keep it to yourself because you're not confident. But when you have both
Mhm.
of those things together, like when you said it,
Wow,
I started getting goosebumps
dynamite.
because that was, and that's what makes our time together in Inner Haven so uniquely distinct from times in other spaces. Because, and I got a couple homegirls that I get on the phone with them, we go all over the world and universe and what we talk about. Y'all would know what we talking about, but many people don't. But it is that so I'll just stop there. But I just wanted to accent that because that was super important.
Yeah.
Thank you. What about you? What are your thoughts, Harriet? 8 and 9.
Um, it to me, just to piggyback off of what you and Richard have just said, it gives you a certain freedom, and when you are able to express it, whether in words or in deeds, and feel confident and not be concerned about what somebody else is going to think or what somebody else is going to say or how they're going to see it. That's the important thing. Being able to say or do and be yourself and not be concerned about what somebody else is going to think or say. And that's what I love about our sessions here at Inner Haven, because we are able to express ourselves and we're not judged for how we think, whether you think what I say is out there in left field somewhere, go find that ball. you know I just it's liberating, is the only thing I can say at this point.
Thank you. How about you, Forrest?
I'm still listening.
Okay. Um, let's do 10 and 11 together because it's 6:22, y'all. Goodness
Oh my
gracious.
God.
This time goes by fast. But this was a pretty meaty paragraph, and we
Yeah,
knew
it
it was
was.
going to take us right up to the minute.
Right.
I'll read 10 and 11 and we can discuss that. 10 is you can never make your misconceptions true. Oh my goodness. And your creation is beyond your own error. Wow. I'm gonna read that again. You can never make your misperceptions true, and your creation is beyond your own error. 11. That is why you must eventually choose to heal the separation.
Wow.
Dust my hands off on that one.
Ah,
Yes, you can never make your misperceptions true. And I think that that's why for so long I was, I hopped from one religion to another religion, from one church to another church, from one kind of group to another kind of group. Excuse me, because I just wasn't understanding perception, and I was trying to make that who I was. But now, now that I'm understanding that my misperceptions, I couldn't make them true anyway. That's why I could never be comfortable in trying to be who that person was, because I can't stay there. But I always thought that I was supposed to stay there. If I said that last month, then I'm supposed to say this. I'm supposed to believe that deep down in my heart forever and ever and ever and ever, because that's how it is. But now that I'm understanding it, and your creation, that's your deeper down, my deep down self. It can't be in error. That's why when I allowed myself to, okay, this is who I am. Y'all have always known me to be an odd bird. Well, hey, I'm a dodo. I am that odd bird. I'm a platypus. I don't care what y'all think of me, because I am different. And that's great, because now I can see things differently, and I can see the way that you see things differently. And that's why, now and healing that separation, healing that concept of thought that I am not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, because I'm not fitting, because I'm a square peg, and I'm not, and I'm in a round hole. I can be, I can get out of that whole block. I don't have to be any of those things. I can be who I am, and I can allow somebody else to be who they are too, because I'm healed. And I think that really is what Yeshua was saying to us, is that when we are healed, we are, that whole concept of self is, we become like the Father. Anybody else on 10 and 11?
So many thoughts crossed my mind, and I was listening to you, and it like, but you can never make your misperceptions true, and that's true. Because if you are misperceiving something, you need to have your eyes opened so that you can see the true light. Sometimes, something will cause us to not focus correctly. And that's where the misperception comes in, because we're not focused on whatever truth there might be for us to learn out there. And once you come into focus, then, things will usually, we'll be able to see better. Is the best way that I can put it. And when we do that, we do heal. And we're able not only to heal ourselves, but we're able to help our brothers and sisters heal. And their healing may not be the same as ours, but if we can do anything to help them in their journey, that's all that is required. We don't push them in any one direction or the other. We just give them the tools to help them to move into their truth.
Thank you. What about you, Richard? What are your thoughts on 10 and 11?
When you're operating out of a place of fear, that's what's going to prompt your misperceptions. So as long as you are coming out of this divided mind and with the ego driving you towards fear, then there is no way that you're going to be able to see the truth because you're not one-minded. And I think this other part here in terms of your creation is beyond your own error. Well, if you're already separated, then it's going to be very hard for you to see the unity of all things and the makeup of the universe outside of us, but also within us. And I think, this last sentence for me is just really, I read that as the death card in tarot. This is why you have to eventually choose to heal yourself. That, like, this is why we have to go through those cycles of death and rebirth because of the amount of misperceptions and the influence of the ego in influencing us into a fearful state. So I don't know. It sounds like I just summed up what I was going to tell y'all for my wrap up.
Well, go ahead and give us your roundtable now, since you're already started it.
Sure. I think this whole section here was really it was really helpful for me because I've been really digging into thinking more about the ego and the healthy and unhealthy and how to navigate all of those and to not look at the ego as good or bad. It just is. And rather than relying on the ego or thinking about the ego in those terms, just lead from the soul, because that's always, divine.
Repeat that last statement, Richard.
Huh?
Repeat that last statement, please.
I was saying too, I always, rather than, leading through my ego, I just lead through, the divinity that's within me, lead through the soul, the being.
Okay.
And doing that, I'll be one-minded. I'll be in a good place to combat when I feel like I'm separated, because it's the separation and divided mind piece is interesting because it's not, at least for me, it's not a constant state. It's like a roller coaster throughout the course of the day. And the more present that I am, the more I can acknowledge and identify what those triggers are, what those things I'm afraid of, those things that are causing me to perceive myself the way that I am. And so this whole section just really was helpful in terms of thinking about the ego, thinking about fear, and continuing to push us to think more about what does it mean to be one-minded. And I'm finding now that anytime that I feel a sense of confusion, I now instantly know that I'm out of sync. And now I won't make a decision. I'm going to pause and work with divine. And that's actually been helping me quite a bit here lately.
Wow, that's powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, how about you, Forrest? What your roundtable? What did you get from today's session, and how can you apply it to your life?
Well, the thing I want to share with you, I think the last part we're talking about what we look at the universe, right? So I always tell people I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. They say, "Who are you?" I said, "My name is Forrest Millionaire." So I'm looking at this sheet that I'm looking at today. My medicine would have cost $58,000. $58,281.98. That's what my medicine would have cost, and it cost me zero. So I'm grateful to God because God gave me the insurances or whatever I can get to pay this money. So again, I'm grateful for life because I'm living my best life with my health.
Amen.
So I think we look at the outer box, how I live my life as a millionaire, even if I don't have $1 million.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. How about you, Harriet?
What comes to my mind is what brought me to A Course in Miracles to begin with. Love is letting go of fear. And to me, if I can love myself, I can love everybody. And no fear, all love. What else can I say?
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Well, for me, I think what the thing that I mostly got from today's session is just really paying attention to am I in one mind? Am I being that open channel for creation to flow through? And this is something that I have been really working on since a couple of weeks ago, since I've been doing my tarot and doing the shadow side of my of my understanding self, just to to be released. And am I holding on to any type of fear, and am I allowing it to be released, or am I too afraid to let it go and I'm still holding on to it? And if I am, why? Do I still need this? It might be that I still need it. And I'm really paying attention to just being of this one mind. And that's a trip, y'all. It's a
Good.
trip. So so I am enjoying this life that I am living now. It's hard sometimes, it's confusing sometimes, it's exhilarating sometimes, but I'm here. So that's
Beautiful.
that's my round table for the day. Okay, so now tomorrow morning from 11 to 11:30, we have I Am with Forrest. From 7 to 8:30 tomorrow night, we have our book Flight. Nothing on Friday. Saturday we have Healing with the Chakras. Now, Harriet, are we gonna finish up with? Are we gonna finish up with
We're concluding with the crown chakra.
with the crown chakra before we add in the herbs and the
Right.
healing sessions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we'll be so for Saturday, from 2 to 4 Saturday, we'll be concluding our healing with the chakras, with the crown chakra. On Sunday, I was gonna have everybody here come here to my home, but y'all know I don't have any hot water because my hot water tank leaked, and hopefully I might be having people come over this weekend to do some work. So we will be meeting at the James City County Library in the Cosby Room from 2 to 4. So please come, Richard. I hope that you can make it. We love to see you in person. Bring your tarot cards. We're going to be working on the tarot spreads. We're going to conclude. We're going to finish up with. We didn't do the wands, so we're going to do a quick recap. Or we're going to do the wands, a quick recap of all the cards, and then we'll be starting to work on the tarot spreads. So meet us at the James City County Library. That's on Croker Road. I will send everybody the address later, and meet us there.
Okay.
And that's
now
so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, usually when we get together like that, we do potluck. Are we going to do that?
Yeah, I think we can bring I'm going to just bring some like little muffins or cookies or something like that, and they will allow us to have a coffee. So,
okay.
Or some sodas or some water or something like that. So
okay.
Yeah, so we're not
okay, so
yeah. So if you want it, look, if you want to BYOB, bring it in you.
okay. Okay.
Bring it in you. But I just love tarot. I think tarot is such a healing tool, and is very comforting. It has helped me out through so many years of my life, and people still come to me get readings, and I love giving readings, and I love doing tarot. So this is one of my fun things to do. So that's it for this evening. Any other questions or comments?
Oh.
Okay. Would anyone like to close us out in prayer?
I can do it.
Okay.
Let us take in a full, deep, cleansing breath. And let that pure breath cleanse us of all the negativity that we might have within us, letting it go. And as we exhale, realize that we're nourishing the trees and the plants that gives us that pure oxygen. And let us be grateful for this time that we've spent together, learning more, getting deeper and deeper into this course in miracles. Because we are all miracles. And this is just telling us, letting us know who we are. And be grateful that we are able to come together and discuss and express who we are and not be judged because we are who we are. And with that, I say, and so it is.
So it is.
And
So it is.
See y'all in the morning.
Okay, see you.
Okay.
On
Bye-bye.
Sunday, and bring a friend or tell a friend, either way.
See you in the morning.
All
All
right.
right, love
Okay.
you.
Love you.
Bye.
Love y'all.
Love
Love
you.
you too.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.